All right, another project. And this one is one that has been bothering me for quite a while. I'm going to talk a little bit about the grill. When we first got the coach, the grill was held on by a couple of bolts and a couple of zip ties and looked like it needed a little bit of help. And so I put down on the list, new grill. And then we were going on a drive and we went down a gravel road with some washboards a little too fast. And when we stopped, the grill was laying out kind of off the bumper with just one zip tie holding it in place. And so we fortunately had some more zip ties and put it back together, and that's been kind of the way it's been since then. And I thought we really probably needed a whole new grill, but I've seen several vehicles lately that had the grill bolted on, and what's happened is the bolts in several places around the grill used to be attached to the back of the grill, and then those are bolted onto the body in the front here. I've seen some new designs that have springs on the backside to allow this to flex a little bit but not break the grill or the bolts, and that's what's happened in our case, is all those bolts have broken off. The grill itself is in pretty good shape other than being dirty right now. There's really just this one spot here where it's broken out, but in every other case the bolt spot on the back seems to have just broken off the back of the grill. And so my plan is to find a way to put bolts through each of these spots. It's looks like it's separated maybe just a little bit, so there's a little bit of adjustment needed there possibly. But I'm going to try to use some bolts. I'm going to use some washers. I might try to find a way to do some spring on the back to help do a little bit of that spring loading to hold it in place. And I think I'm going to be able to fix the grill that we have and make it look pretty good and basically be a permanent solution. So that's the plan. The first step is to cut the zip ties and take the grill off. So cut my 5 zip ties there, and then looks like the grill is basically still stuck in one place. Oh, there is still one bolt right here, so I'm going to need to take that off. But other than that one bolt, basically the whole thing was just held on by zip ties. So my solution is to get it all bolted in, make it look as original and non-obtrusive as possible. Okay, so I've got the grill in my shop area, and I'm just going to describe a little bit about what the plan is with this, and then I'll work on the plan and we'll see how it goes. So looking at the back of the grill, we have one of these kind of epoxied on bolts. Here's another one that has broken off, and it was in one of these other spots. But there are a total of 6 bolts that hold this in. There's 2 on the top, there's 1 on each side, and then there's 2 down on the bottom. And what I'm going to do, I have a little patching I need to do here. There's a crack, but all of the rest of this is pretty good. Other than this crack here, it's in pretty good shape. It needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but overall looks pretty good. So if I kind of look a little bit at this up closer, you can see in a spot like this, in the molding of the plastic, it looks like originally it was molded plastic here. There's a little strengthening fin, obviously not strong enough because this broke off. And the bolts that I plan to use are basically this contraption that I've been working on and thinking about. And my idea is that this big flathead bolt can go through a hole where this is. I'll have to clean this up and then drill a hole in the grill. And then that bolt will be on the front side. This big washer here will go on the back side of the fiberglass frame that the grill mounts into. And then this spring will keep tension on that with the washer on the back to give it something you could tighten down against. And I'll be able to basically tighten down this Nylock nut to adjust how tight this tension is on the back of the fiberglass, with this going through the front of the grill. And overall, I think as the front of the coach moves around a little bit, rattles, flexes, this will give a little bit of play to the grill and hopefully not break out the space around where I put the bolt through the grill itself. So if we think about the grill on the front, basically I'll just have a black screw head showing up there, which I think will blend in nicely. It'll be down a little bit where that other bolt was, but I'll end up with 6 of these with my spring-loaded system to hold the grill on. So I think probably a Dremel will work to clean this up. Then I'll drill a hole, and that's my plan. All right, so I've been cleaning up the backside of the grill, and I found, because of years of breaking apart and things, the back of the grill is a little bit chewed up. And so I'm going to use some of my JB Weld plastic weld stuff. And the last time I used this, I used kind of a liquid type material. This time I have like a 2-part putty, and I just need to get it a little part here. There's a kind of a sticker on the end you have to take off. But then you mix this up, and I'm going to use this to fill in and smooth out some of the back of this, because when I drill holes in things, it it could weaken it a little bit. I think because of my spring mechanism and things, it'll take a little bit of the pressure off, but I want to try to fill in some of that hole and smooth it out. I'm also going to use some of this up here where it's cracked. I kind of roughed up the surface a little bit, but I'm going to try to put some on the back of this crack and see if that helps hold that cracked area together and prevents that break from getting any worse. So it takes a little bit to mix up the JB Weld here, and then I will stick it on. Okay, so I've got this putty all worked and mixed together, and I'll take some just small pieces and fix some of these places that were coming apart. And if I get this on here well, then once it hardens, I'll be able to sand it down a little bit, and smooth it out. And then I can also drill holes in it. I've done that before, and it just kind of works like a piece of plastic. Make sure we spread this one out a bit and force it down into those broken parts. So it might have been a good idea to clean this up with some acetone or something like that, but it seems to be sticking pretty well, so we'll give it a shot. Something I'm probably not as good at as I should be is doing the surface prep. It looks like there is a little bit of a crack along the edge there, so I think it's good that I'm doing a little reinforcing. So this stuff looks like gum as you stick it on, but then once it hardens basically like a hard plastic. So I'll put some on this crack. This one I'm not as confident in. I might need to do something else to really strengthen this, but figure I'll start with the putty, and then if I need to do some kind of liquid or some other repair material, then I can do that. I kind of like the putty because it can push down in, and when it hardens, basically kind of form a new reinforcing thing there. So, and all right, that's particularly dirty. Probably would have been good to clean that up too, but we'll give it a shot to dry and see what happens. Okay, so we got the epoxy on, and basically hit it with a little bit of black paint just to make it blend in. It's a little bit rough, but I don't think that's going to hurt anything. This is on the back of the grill, and that should be just fine. So because I had to kind of patch up that hole a bit, I'm going to use this brace on the back to decide where I should drill my new hole. I'm going to drill a small hole with a small bit, and then I'm going to come from the front side with a bigger 1/4 inch bit, which is the size of the bolts that I'm going to use. So I'm going to go around the back, drill these starter holes just so I know where I'm working, and then get the bigger ones from the front. Okay, looks like that will work well. All right, it's time to put in my hardware and the grill, and hopefully things line up. We'll see how this goes. I'm going to put the grill up like this and get it in place, and I think the key will be to put in a couple of the top ones first. So just wiggle that in a little bit. I drilled the holes at 1/4 inch, which is the same size as the bolt. So might need to kind of spin that in a little bit. I didn't want to drill the holes any bigger because I didn't want to have a bunch of any extra material taken out right there. Now that I've got the bolt in, I'll put on my washers and my spring and everything. And it'll take a little bit here on the back doesn't hurt to have an extra set of hands to hold this in place while you're working. And I'll just put the big washer on first, and then the spring, and then the small washer, and then the nut to hold it all together. Yep, I'm going to need to get an extra hand on this. All right, so the grill was in pretty good shape, but there's this one bolt hole that was broken out and cracked. So I put some of the epoxy putty on the back to strengthen this. Hit it with a little bit of black paint. The paint touch-up doesn't look great, but it looks good at 20 feet or so. For this one, I wanted to spread out the force a little bit, and so I painted a large washer, the same paint as I used for the heads of the bolts, just to spread that out a little bit. And then I'll put my washers and spring and things on the back, just like all the other ones. Okay, and I still need to tighten down that nut on the back, but now it's being held there, and I'll get them all tightened down here in a minute. All right, so I got the grill in, and the screws look nice. They blend in nicely, and it's actually nice and tight. It has a little bit of flex, so I really like the way the big washer on the back and then the spring and then the small washer worked, because the bolts go through at a certain angle, but then the back that this mounts to is at a little bit different angle sometimes. And so having that washer, the spring, and the other washer allowed the washers to kind of flex and line up with the back of this kind of the front of the coach. And so it made really nice contact. The springs are being tension on it, but not overly tight. So I think there should be a little bit of flex there. And hopefully it doesn't fall out anymore.